Hello, hello, everybody. We're just gonna wait a few minutes for Melanie to join us. But thanks so much for joining tonight. Hi, everyone. I'm just gonna hit the waves. Please, again, as always, bear with my inability to manage this Instagram live. But you all are always so kind, so I appreciate the opportunity to figure it out. So I'm gonna add Melanie in now. While we're waiting on her to join, your questions. We're really excited. Hey, Dylan, thanks so much for joining. Erica, always a pleasure. Oh, hello, beautiful.
I haven't worn makeup in a really long time.
Well, then you have it evenly for both of us because I said screw makeup today.
All right.
You're lucky I got out of my gym clothes for this. So I'm so glad that you look so fabulous because frankly, you're the star of the show. And that's who we should be focusing on. And I love the blonde, which is different from the pink the last time I saw you.
Yeah, it's expensive to get it done again. Now, we're my emojis, they're a very important part of the story.
Of course, of course. Well, I'm wearing, it says I'm a luxury that few can afford. It's one of the Princess Diana sweaters. My friend got it for me for my birthday. So I understand we got to have sweaters with attitude.
Yes. I've never done a live before, so excuse me if I'm awkward.
Oh, no, I'm so awkward. Don't you worry. I started the video with, hey, guys, I'm usually very incompetent with the live, so please bear with me. But we always have lovely people who are kind and thoughtful. So what I'll start off is I'll kick us off. We'll do some introductions on your end so people can, get to know who you are, how you got interested in this. We'll take some questions as people are having them go through. We'd love to keep this interactive, guys, so that way, this is something we're all learning about. This is another angle to the Britney aspect that we have such a great opportunity to learn. And again, push for action. So just kick us off. Thank you all for joining. I'm so excited for all the people we've seen so far come on. For those of you who don't know me, my name is Cassandra Dumas. I am the founder of Free Britney America, and we have such an amazingly talented team of people in this area who have been at the forefront of this movement, who say, I want to take a stand. I want to do my own research. I want to contribute in a meaningful way. And this is one perfect example of that. Melanie and I met at the first rally. Frankly, I was probably running around like a chicken with my head cut off, but I distinctly remember her with her umbrella and just being this fabulous person, taking amazing photos and raising awareness. So Melanie has been extremely active in all of our rallies, in all of our talks online, and I'm just so grateful that she took this upon herself with no push from anyone to do this research. Melanie, would you be so kind to give an intro on yourself, and then we'll talk about how you got started in this?
Yes. So rewind, I had my first mental health breakdown in 2007, and there was no representation back then. Obviously, I've never commented on an assumptive diagnosis of Britney at all, but she really was a proxy for how mental illness was viewed, and very much she was framed. And that frame was the justification for her being under control.
Yeah.
And so it was my experience in accessing social welfare services as I became a social worker, because half of them are very mean and condescending. And then, I worked in domestic shelters for a long time. And one day I'll get my PhD, and I'm in my sixth year. So
you got this, girl. I mean,
it's a long-term commitment to mental health advocacy and domestic violence. Domestic violence is very different from trafficking, and what got me on this journey is kind of my anger at the first documentary. While it did amazing things, there was a lack of accountability. I do think that the prestige media has more of a responsibility to report facts than entertainers, Sarah Silverman, and I just didn't see that reflection and accountability from the media. So that's my journey, like just going back and pulling articles, because I have access to the school research database, and it kept going from there. Because people have done wonderful work on the court records, And I was just like, there's a lot more money behind this than we even know.
Absolutely.
Oh, and dropping things.
Oh, we're fine. I was adjusting earlier. That's the fun thing. We are live. Things can happen in real time. Thanks everybody who's saying hi and being so very supportive. We're excited you're here tonight. So Melanie, you're talking about why this became important to you. Oops, excuse me, and how you started researching it. You know, you have a crazy busy life. You, hopefully you don't mind me saying, you're a wonderful mom. You're doing your PhD. You know, where did you find the time to be able to do this and take this on?
Well, I am bipolar, so I have mania,
Yeah.
compulsion, because I've really enjoyed writing for general audiences more. There's so much gatekeeping in academia. It's a very slow, cumbersome process. And I'm kind of funky. I don't really fit in there. And I just found the Free Britney movement online so much more stimulating.
Yeah. Oh, that's.
No, there's a lot of back and forth with dissertation drafts. So, you know, they have a month to review it. So I have time like that.
That's awesome. You know, some people would say, oh, I have some time off and I'm just going to chill. You're taking that time. You're using it for something good, which is amazingly powerful. Free Britney Norway, you're absolutely right. She is a super power woman, 100%. So we're so lucky to have her. So for those of us who haven't had a chance to check out your YouTube video that you recently made, which again, guys, extremely well researched, documented. This girl knows her stuff. She knows how to cite things and she knows the power of it. Talk to us about, you know, the research process that you started with this.
Gosh. I just was reading. And that's kind of what you do in regular research. And then, like, why are these same names coming up over and over and over again?
Yeah.
And that's kind of what led me down the path. Because as soon as I found Jamie Spears have been in business relationships with the Maloofs, pre and post conservatorship, and they're in a relationship with the Palms Casino, I was like, oh, this is big. And I couldn't really understand. I've tweeted all the major journalists why they didn't cover that at all. It's like, it's been very much a Shakespearean tragedy, right? And there's so much more money involved than what Britney makes. Britney's work makes a lot of other people a lot of money. I'm talking billions, right? That doesn't go to her, but it's all the merchandising, the venues, t-shirt sales, you know, beverage sales, etc., right?
What basically you're saying is the high-loaded contracts that go into everything from not only the venue, from who is their alcohol distributor and the contracts they get within those, then the actual people who are going to be delivering that from a manufacturing perspective and the trucking companies that are then associated. Then, of course, the people on staff. Britney said it herself that all these people were working for her, yet she had no rights. And you think of that entire system. Then separately, of course, is the Lou Taylor end, which we all know and love and can't wait to see handcuffs on. And with that, you think about then the manufacturing of the merchandise, as you said. So you're talking about the manufacturers that are most likely in a third world country that are creating these contracts via the entertainment companies, whether it's actually directly with the music labels, or if you're talking about more of a multi-conglomerate music group itself, which is then getting partnered into other artists in their generation of merchandise, and it just bottles up from there. So it's absolutely 100% right, as you said, billions of dollars, guys, when you're starting to look at it. So set the stage for me. Let's go back to the beginning.
Okay, so if you're building a RICO case, I basically only watch documentaries. You're building a RICO case, you want to go after the top dogs. So my analysis approach was very much top down. Cher said everyone on Vegas knew. So then you have to wonder, why didn't they talk? And why did they? I'm just so angry that so many of them waited, you know? It's upsetting given their platform and power. So my interpretation was, the music industry is essentially a monopoly, especially with Live Nation. And Live Nation and Ticket, and the thing is, right, They have all these subsidiaries and like boutique record labels, blah, blah, blah. But they're all the same company and they collude together. So you have price fixing amongst all the big people in 2000. You've got people going after Ticketmaster right now because they're shutting out, I think it's like they're shutting out anyone who's not, like they won't bring their artists there unless they use Ticketmaster.
Yep.
So that's my thing, right? So like, why did they talk?
Right.
It's like, okay, it's the NDA thing, right? The thing that kept Harvey Weinstein protected. So it's either a function of someone along the chain making them sign NDAs why they cannot speak. And so Las Vegas made Lou Taylor 100,000 billion%, right? And not that she wasn't in control of Britney from the get-go, no. But that's what made her a force in so far as people being concerned about her deep pockets, her power. But who's adjacent to her, right? Mm-hmm. She's named Michael Rapino and Irving Azoff as her mentors. They were CEOs. Rapino was Live Nation. Azoff was Ticketmaster. They were the CEOs when they merged. Mm-hmm. Well, you know, Caesars had a historic partnership with Live Nation, announced it 10 days before Piece of Me started. Mm-hmm. So there you go. Why would someone like them, you know, top of the industry, all of a sudden be mentors to Lou Taylor? And you don't see her on any of these best blah, blah, blah lists until after Piece of Me's been around for a little while.
Absolutely. And you know what I think is the other interesting thing for everybody who's tuning in with us tonight is that if we think back to the early 2000s and what Vegas was, this was, you know, Vegas was still, you know, we don't talk about what we see here, but it was more from number one, it was still typical tourists. It didn't have the business traffic it now has today. To be able to attract the business traffic that happens, and then to continue to create this idea that it's where all your dreams and fantasies and all the things you can't do in your real life come true. You had to also open up what that expansion of what a Vegas experience could be. It couldn't just be all the 1950s image of, you know, sex, drugs, and hookers, to put it nicely as I'm going to put it. But so you're looking at opportunities for high value entertainers, which really wasn't seen post 1980, where you had people attracting a younger audience. That wasn't your key demographic. And so when we're looking at the early 2000s, it's something where the Palms Casino was built up and the Real World was filming there for the first time. And that was starting to bring it into the mainstream of it's the hot, cool place to go. Mm-hmm. If your 20s, if you want to have a crazy evening, but it's got all things to offer. And I think that's what's key. It's not just about, you know, old time crooners. And of course, my father would yell at me right now because I can't remember. Don something was his name, but he was a long time Vegas. He had a residency in Vegas for many, many years, but that was the type. Frankly, Melanie and I's generation would not have cared in our 20s whatsoever about someone like that. So this was something where they recognized the market opportunity as a destination for, first off, for young, hot, you know, younger generation folks to come, have fun. But also with that, if you're trying to attract the corporate conference cloud, you also have to have things for them to go out and do that is acceptable within new business standard practices of post-Wolf of Wall Street lifestyle. So I just wanted to set the stage there for everyone joining if you're not familiar with the history within Vegas.
Yeah. So you have Celine Dion there before Britney, and you know she has some strong. I have Parkinson's, you guys. So if I jerk around, that's why. So she has a strong stan community on Twitter. So I definitely want to acknowledge her. She did huge things, but she was past her prime. And her target audience, I mean, we love Titanic, but I'm 40. She wasn't like our jam.
Exactly.
So you have the Palms Casino open in 2001. You have Larry Rudolph is old friends with the Maloofs. You might know Adrienne Maloof from The Real Housewives of Beverly Hills. They were the owners of the Sacramento Kings, who Ron Artest played for, and he was one of Lou Taylor's most prominent clients in the beginning, beyond Nikki Taylor. So he was kind of her, I think, first big foray into the NBA, whereas she worked with the NHL, Panthers in Florida, and I can go on tangents, and then the Predators when they got an expansion team in Nashville. Mm-hmm. So, opening night, 2001, Palms Casino. Paris Hilton is just starting to get super red hot. She goes there with George Maloof, and she's wearing $1 million in poker chips. So that sent all the tabloids going crazy. The Palms were also very much wanting people to think they could go there and rub shoulders with celebrities. So they got a lot of comps. They had a number of different clubs. You have other club. They were trying to make it into a clubbing town, and they were very successful at doing that. So Larry Rudolph, I don't know when he met George Maloof, but there's Albert Maloof is down in South Florida. We know Larry was bopping around there in the 90s. Backstreet Boys, Lou Pearlman, that whole scene. Florida's a mess. Florida is like just as corrupt as Vegas. Sorry. Okay, so it becomes Club City. You have these celebrities getting paid $100,000 or so just to go to a party. And we know that's kind of how the Kardashians, their big first revenue stream prior to the start of their reality show. And very much it's a marriage of paparazzi, gossip magazines. They still sold magazines a lot back then. And reality TV, and then, celebrities being there. So the Palms was the first one to really invite the paparazzi into the casinos, which was like a huge deal. And then, so the interesting thing is Rudolph and the Maloofs go way back. I don't know when. I'm assuming sometime in Florida. I'm not sure. And so Jamie has known them since 2001 because he gave an interview to the Las Vegas Review in 2014 and said the Maloofs are the ones who paid for him to go to chef school.
Oh.
So you have Britney at the Palms a lot. May 2008, post-conservatorship. She's out all the town. You have them. She does her femme fatale surprise shows. Before she announces her tours in 2011, and there's like 4 clubs at the Palms. And so repeatedly, 2005, 2008, 2011, the Maloofs keep pushing the Britney in Vegas residency. I mean, there's quotes.
Yeah.
It's very much a very strategic long-term plan that unfortunately was successful.
And it's so interesting to think about it from that perspective, a strategic long-term plan. This wasn't just about making revenue for Lou Taylor or Larry Rudolph from that perspective. It's more about the fact of all the different channels for, again, the conservatorship was about power and control and maximizing the profit of the business of Britney. And when you're looking at lucrative options to ensure that level of control, you want something where you can manage all the different pieces on a consistent basis, which really couldn't be done the same way on a tour, because you're talking about people that are going to have to hired within the individual countries. When she started her worldwide tour, there's just a lot more unknowns, and frankly, a lot more ways that Britney could have broken out, ways that she could have articulated the pain and the challenges. Thank you guys all so much who've recently joined. But it's something where they wanted to ensure that total of control with consistent revenue being delivered, not just for, of course, Jamie, not just for Larry, not just for Lou, not just, of course, for Sam Ingram, and all 4 of those people a lot of things are, you know, Jamie gets a lot of the rap in the press, and I'm not saying it's deserved, but we cannot forget and we cannot put down the heat on these other people that exercise a tremendous amount of power to ensure that the conservatorship stayed in place, ensured that it was profitable, and ensured that it was a gilded cage that Britney was kept in that was almost impossible for her to get out. And I think we all see it, that she freed herself. We as the movement may have helped her and helped amplify her voice, but she tried for many, many years, and it's without that we wouldn't have been here today. But why I call that out is when we're looking at that control metrics around Vegas. Vegas has cameras everywhere. Security is extremely tight. You're talking about a consistent venue where you can't find back doors. You know every single person who is going to be touching it. You're ensuring that all the NDAs are for the length of the time. Oh, sorry, Melanie.
No one knows what happened in Vegas, and they didn't expand on it at all.
Absolutely.
I went to a Q&A. She did not answer my question. I was like, this is the plot of The Godfather, like 100%.
Yeah.
Casino in it, because I mean, Sky watches it all. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Absolutely.
And
So
she did have young kids. It's hard to know how much of that was her idea. I'm sure there's extensions. I mean, she's so rich, she didn't have to work. She, you know, so it's really hard to know until she speaks on it. But my goal are primarily the people that she has named as the one she wants, you know, to face accountability. But at the same time, there's a lot of very rich, very powerful people that enabled them.
Absolutely. So going back to 2011, so the Femme Fatale tour of the the separate locations are happening. What is building up at the same time in Vegas?
So, you know, a lot of people have talked about this era as, you know, not really knowing what was going on with her. So, gosh, I need to pull up my timeline. I'm going to publish it as soon as I fact check everything, make sure it's kosher. But there's like 500 news articles and documents. I had to combine a lot because there's a 500 limit. So in Vegas, you have TPG Capital. So they come up a bunch. There's other people involved. You have them, they buy Planet Hollywood. 2011, these are controlling stakes. They're not the only one. 2011, they buy Caesars, I think, or 2010, and they also buy the Palms, which was heavily, heavily in debt. And the Maloofs were only left with 2%. But they were able to buy it back 20% if the revenues were okay. And interestingly, they sold the Palms, I think, gosh, to Red Rock. It doesn't matter. But all I'm saying is you have this certain names come up over and over again. So not only that, TPG, by the time Britney started Vegas, they had a 35% stake in CAA, which is Creative Artists Agency. So she signed with them after, you know, Treywick and her broke up, and, you know, he was no longer her conservator, and he was William Morris Endeavor. Yeah, so there's a lot of moving parts. They're very much amping up for it. There's other things going on, and interestingly, I've never been to Vegas except as a kid. But, you know, there's I keep calling it the Magnificent Mile, the Miracle Mile, Planet jobs. And so they get a whole renovation. Planet gets a renovation. And interestingly, the people who, you know, renovate the Miracle Mile, they're called TriStar Capital. And I just give and lose really old connections to the top echelon of the evangelical movement in America. It's just not an accident.
Yeah.
There's been businesses called Trinity. You'll see TriStar come up and up and up. Tennessee is the capital of the Southern Baptist Convention, which is a highly decentralized group, but they are the biggest, you know, I think just past Catholics or before, you know, church affiliated, conglomerate in the country. So it's not really an accident. Tennessee's in the tri-state state. It's hard to know who's connected to who. Mm-hmm. But Lou Taylor, her husband's on business records, and so is her old partner, Sean Blair, with Stephen Tijibitin. I cannot say it, but his family's like descendants from Billy Graham.
Yeah.
There's other players. Scrency, his daughter went to my school and got a music business degree, UGA. But, she worked for TriStar and CAA. So you just see, you have Larry Rudolph's kids working the circus tour. Perez Hilton, probably in on it from the beginning. That's what solidified him.
Yeah.
As, kind of mainstream. And, people just forgave the Doodles, right?
Yeah. Even
though they were dehumanizing and, not even clever, and he has terrible taste in music. So follow up questions.
Absolutely. So it's just crazy to think of the incestuous nature of this. Anybody who is in any specific verticalized business knows you come across, or even just any industry, whether it's healthcare, whether it's, education, whether it's corporate America, whether it's the military, all of these have their own networks, and you will come across the same people over and over again. And then when those people start connecting in with others within their network, it does create this completely incestuous network that it's hard to not see spider webs. Thank you. Allegedly in on it. Absolutely free Britney yesterday. Very much appreciate the clarification on that.
Have allegedly on the screen.
Yeah. The disclaimer on there is a disclaimer then.
But I be trafficking for facts. Not people, so.
And that's what we're super excited about, is Melanie has all the citations on this.
And interestingly, I don't really know how talent agents work. Irving Azoff's son was, when Britney was announced to be with CAA, he was the agent in charge.
Yeah.
My theory is when she was like, Christina Aguilera, you know what they did to me. You couldn't even say shit, Well, Irving Azoff was her talent agent for 20 years, and he's Lou Taylor's mentor.
Yeah.
So by association, a logical alleged deduction could be it's because it goes to the heart of the music industry. And we are at a pivotal point now. You've got Live Nation under attack and Ticketmaster, where we can say, you know what? This monopoly is dangerous and hurts society.
Absolutely. And that's something, as again, we talk about the opportunity for more regulation in these type of areas. Monopolies reduce the free market, but they can also result in infringements on rights and infringements on choices. And as we're seeing this, we're seeing that we as the public, one, I'm sure you, anybody who's maybe is Googled civil lawsuits in regards to Ticketmaster, they were charging crazy fees for many years. I definitely purchased more Ticketmaster than Live Nation, so that's the only one I can personally speak on. And when we look at what then happens to us as the consumer, that's why it's important for us to speak out about areas where people are being violated in the case of human trafficking. Because frankly, when you look at these big promotional events, such as the Super Bowl, you're talking about a lot of people trafficked into those situations. And so it's very important that we are conscious consumers to know that we are not participating within that system. And when we see something wrong, using platforms such as this to speak out about it, doing your research like Melanie.
It's hard with trafficking because the whole, it's all underground. There's people that are very proud to be sex workers, but it's hard to tell who's who. Yeah. And Mercy Ministries was involved, Nancy Alcorn and Lou Taylor was involved in greatly harming people coming out of that per their own testimonials of their traumatic experiences. So it's hard to know what's what when the law isn't clear, or it's not conducive to, really serving people's best interests, which is harm reduction and being able to really know what's up.
Absolutely. And then you add on to it multi-states involved in this. So Melanie, Tennessee, Lou has offices in New York. Brittany was based out of California. And then you include any ones where she did outside of the residency, the one night shows. You're talking about collusion in different state regulations in
Yeah.
all different areas. And the
You know,
money.
interstate trafficking is far more severe. I mean, I don't know, maybe some wire fraud. I think the financial crimes, have less statute of limitations. I was listening to that lawyer, that great, I think it's a divorce lawyer, saying, there's a statute of limitations on surreptitiously recording people. So, I mean, Capone was taken down by tax evasion. So my whole goal is like Rico.
Yeah, and I think that's how it should be. And I know that that was something when I had conversations with some of our congressional members, I was really trying to push on because, again, we're talking about multi-state. You talk about how the history of how RICO was used, whether it's
That, right? We have self-dealing 100%.
exactly. And it's something where, again, the bank and wire fraud that was consistent and the using of seemingly innocuous activities in order to cover up criminality. In my opinion, and again, I am not a lawyer. I do not pretend to be. I am just somebody who has always been passionate about the law and government and done my own research and, yes, studied it in school. But it is something where we have a great.
I don't really know like what's what, but you have someone leaving Live Nation and then they just happen to get they're called Epic Rights. They happen to get when Britney was launching that like lifestyle brand, like lingerie, home goods or whatever, he got that contract and that's huge.
Mm-hmm.
Right. But you have her dad, working, he's on IMDb. The Maloof Money Cup in 2008 and 2009, which is post-conservatorship. And I don't know, man. They really ran that visit. The Maloofs really ran the palms into the ground. They really failed out there on TPG. And it's interesting because Caesar sold, I think, in March 2019. Interesting. And some of the things, right, when you think about liability, you sell at a loss, it limits your liabilities, right? And just strange.
Absolutely. So now let's talk about she's in the conservatorship and the Vegas residency is announced.
Right. So, you have the historic partnership between Caesars, with Caesars is Planet Hollywood, Caesars, and actually TPG Capital, right? TPG Capital owns majority of CAA. Eventually, I think by 2014, but at that point they have 35%. And so historic partnership with Live Nation, Caesars, Lou. This is the thing. If you guys don't know what the Internet Archive is, it's perfect resource. They don't always capture, but you can go back and look at TriStar's old website. There's not a lot of screen grabs because they were kind of nobodies, right?
Mm-hmm.
They didn't have a working website for a year until October 2013. What highly successful business doesn't have a website? Okay.
Yeah.
It says website coming, and then I finally have it. It took me a while to get the screenshot, but redirecting to the new website. No websites. Same thing happened with CrowdSurf. Like they basically had like a blog spot until they got Britney as a client. I really don't know, but I'm always suspicious of anyone who gets a 30 under 30. Anyway, I don't know her complicity. I have no idea who knows what, but per her partner's podcast, I've collected a lot of research from other people. It's too much for me to even give people shout outs, but I try. They met Britney through Nashville Star, which was like an American Idol show, and that's how they connected. And apparently there's some connection to Lou, but I have not explored that. So not only do they not have a website, they get a new office. So right when the conservatorship starts, Lou gets a new, it's the LA office, right? She switches addresses. I don't know enough about LA to know how much of an upgrade it was. But then she also gets a new Nashville. I think she gets Nashville first. Anyway, she upgrades both offices soon thereafter, Piece of Me starting.
Okay.
Okay, and then the other thing I'll just mention is, Larry Rudolph gets Maverick. Well, Maverick's Live Nation.
Mm-hmm.
It is problematic, right? Because promoters make money. Typically, ticket sales go to the artist, right? Agent fee 10%, whatever. So it's too much in one wheelhouse.
Mm-hmm.
So you have Live Nation. Larry works at Live Nation. Live Nation works the residency, and then the venue and her CAA are run by TPG. There's so many conflicts of interest there.
Absolutely. And then all the contracts, as you said, they're giving out in order to build up these different areas.
Yeah, and who knows? We don't know the financials on any of that.
No, obviously, we're hoping that as Rosengard is doing his investigations and doing his subpoenas, that they are able to get those records and that those records have not been destroyed. Now, there is certain, that he can get the records in multiple different ways, whether subpoenaing the separate banks that were associated with these type of accounts, depending on the accounts themselves and how long they have as a data retention policy. That all works out in our favor. However, when we start looking at internal books, I'm sure, it's an alleged aspect that I don't doubt that we think that some of them have been cooked, but again, no proof has come out about that. But there is a lot that we do not know about this situation.
Well, and for me, like, people love the relationship story. I'm going to give it to them, but I'm going to give it to them in the business way, right? I mean, we need the public pressure. I mean, it's been a year since Framing Britney Spears came out. Although I have problems with it was pivotal. Since Instagram, right? It was pivotal.
Exactly. It broke up to the more general consciousness as to what was going on.
I mean, I basically tweeted Ronan Farrow please cover this. And you have to wonder why not.
Yeah, absolutely.
They really need to talk to someone on background. I'm not a journalist, but I'm like, these are just facts I'm saying. They're just facts. They prove relationships, but they don't prove who knew what when.
Exactly. And what's most phenomenal actually about the research that you're doing is that it gives us an opportunity to have someone who's already digging into the research, who's citing it, and that it's going to be available for more people to use and cite to speak out about.
Yeah, and I really hope to, part of me feels people have taken some of our research and not giving me credit. Well, I don't care because I don't own the knowledge, but it's like, I'm going to have more, right? Yeah. So I should get credit for it. But I do want it to be correct and 100% before I drop it. And another interesting thing is very much in Variety erased some articles about Lou Taylor. Not the top 2018 blah blah list, but they did.
Interesting. So out of
link doesn't work. 2013 too. So I'm like, I looked the archive, it's not there, and I was like, should I find an old Variety on eBay? And then I was like, it's $30. I don't know. But in 2017, one of the articles that is not there, she very much, the writer says, she got Britney's affairs in order.
Yeah.
At the conservatorship, and then she started Vegas residencies. And there's another podcast where the interviewers kind of, it's a lowly podcast. She's fangirling Lou because she's like, you started Vegas, right? And I even have a quote of Lou being like, yeah, we took a huge bet by bringing Britney to Vegas, and it all panned out, and people thought we were crazy. And you have her quoting Larry being like, hey, I'm gonna bring participate in bringing Britney to Vegas, right? So she corrects herself because, as you've seen with what Alex, the guy from Black Box, has said, there is this disdain, and I just can't imagine.
I can't either.
Talked about as a product.
Mm-hmm. As you've been going through your research, what are a couple things that really surprised you that you didn't know beforehand or were just frankly horrified for the situation?
Mm, I think she was set up. You have everyone kind of like getting something right after.
Yeah.
Everyone, you have K-Fed and Mark Vincent Kaplan. They get this new fancy publicist that used to be Paris Hilton's publicist. End of February 2008. Oh, but let's just talk about 2008. February 2008. You got Paris Hilton in an A&R. It talks to be an A&R rep for Warner Music in February 2008. He gets the deal a year later. We know he opened the circus tour via video.
Yeah.
His first artist he discovered because they did a cover of Womanizer. The guy's name's, I'm not sure. Their name is Slimmy, and that's their claim to fame. And they get to be on the circus tour.
That's crazy.
That's crazy, right? Because it's a different record label. Like, everyone got hooked up.
Yeah. Again, collusion, corruption, greed, all of these things have come together with the conspiracy.
And also the circus tour, I can go on a million tangents because I was like, I could make a Trivial Pursuit game.
Yeah.
It's not funny, but it's true.
No, that's the thing.
I have to catch myself because I'm like, I lose people. But, you have, when Britney texts Kevin for divorce, he gets a deal with Virgin Mobile Text, to be a promo guy for them. They're a sponsor for the circus tour, and so is Candy's, right? The two sponsors.
I mean, having listened to how K-Fed was involved in setting her up for the psych hold made me want to vomit when they went into detail on that on Britney's gram, because it was.
Let's answer Free Britney yesterday.
Yes.
It's called Sun Biz. All business records are public information. So all you have to do is Sun Biz, search. You can search by name. So then you can, there's a lot with Lou and people adjacent to her. So you can see they sold TriStar Accounting Group first. And then she started TriStar.
Thank you for calling that out. And that's actually a perfect segue. While we're getting a couple of more Melanie's thoughts on what stuck with her, please send in any questions that you have. Love to take the opportunity to, pull in that participation and see, as Melanie is still diving down her holes, even if it can't get answered, it may get answered in the future, and you may help Melanie go down a new hole.
Yeah, my timeline's going to be completely searchable. Like, I didn't realize I didn't have to tag anything. So you can search by name or topic or company, or everything's going to be screenshotted. And, like, some things I can't make heads or tails of.
Yeah.
But I try to write, like, little comments, like, I really don't know what's up with this, but it seems sketch.
What's amazing at this is kind of like an open source situation, because as you're pulling in information, I'm sure there are going to be people who reach out to you to say, hey,
add this.
Awesome. And so powerful.
Yeah. It took a whole lot of people. And she said, Britney said her dad's stupid. They were bought. Her sister was, yeah.
Yeah, that's a whole other video for another a vet session. Exactly. I think we all continue to see how absolutely deplorable every single member of her immediate family, and I include K-Fed in that, because although they are divorced,
I off him though because of the kids. But yeah. He got a. He's in the Onion movie. Just look up. You can find a clip on YouTube. It's pretty tacky.
Oh, I don't doubt that one bit whatsoever. All right. So,
it's like the lollipop dancer on the Onion movie, and he's it's really kind of like perverse. I don't know, like parody.
Yeah. So, what are some of your thoughts?
Right. She became like this cultural touchstone.
Yeah, absolutely.
Like, not a person to anybody.
Yeah. Exactly.
I don't want to say, I'm sure she, she has people that love her. Truly. But
yeah. And unfortunately, they were blocked for showing up for many years.
And I recommend anyone watch Monica Lewinsky's TED Talk because she does a really good job, like, you know, talking about what that experience did to her. And
I think
these women, I can't imagine the spotlight and that kind of abuse.
yeah. And then you talk about a woman's right to health care on top of it and what that can mean and not mean, even in a first world country. I know, Melanie, you and I have spoken about this on our own time, but it is horrifying. And I think this is a very apropos. We're having this conversation on International Women's Day to call this out that, you know, Britney was pushed, coerced into this situation. She had no control because there were so many actors outside of, you know, herself, outside of her father, that were ensuring that she got kept in this system that gave profit to many and took away all of her rights. And
you know, I had my kid at 35. You know, I was like, oh my God, I got married, I got to do, you know, because the clock. Yeah. I have to imagine that was part of her motivating factor. She said, I'm done, right?
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. So I want to open it up to see if we have any questions. Really appreciate everybody commenting. Absolutely. Melanie is a complete star. Would 100% agree on that. And I love Free Britney yesterday talking about teamwork. It does make the dream work. So we do very much appreciate that.
And someone did write Investigate Larry Rudolph, and it's very interesting because no one really has.
Why that is, Melanie?
Huh?
Why do you? Whoop, excuse me. Why?
I mean, we know what's up, right? But it's so funny because he's a fucking alleged liar. It's like convenient. Like everything pushes a narrative.
Mm-hmm.
He didn't want to get served by K-Fed's lawyer. He tells Ryan Seacrest that he's in hiding from the servers, who Aaron Cohn, we can get to that in a second. But, you know, and then they serve him, all the paparazzi there at his business, Sunset Tan, which is also a reality show, right? Like, everything is self-promotion. And, you know, he very much wanted that cash cow back on his, you know, like, in the drugging accusations. Oh, I believe him, but I don't know who did them.
Yeah. And what's even more telling, what he did then once he stepped down as Britney's manager and working for Live Nation.
I think he stayed with her, didn't he?
I thought
Maverick is just like an umbrella. It like had the most superstar ones, so it was like news manager.
Okay.
Interesting, because what was I gonna say? Yeah. So even with the VMAs, right? Like I found an article of a journalist. I mean, I know the video's been released of, you know, the split screen of the rehearsals and the actual one that was, you know. But this journalist, who knows? They probably rehearsed a couple days, I'm not sure. And she was like, oh, she's back. She's great. She did awesome, right? And it's weird that so many pieces of that puzzle fell apart. The costume, you know, the staying out late. It's pretty easy to stay out late if you're really, you know, like, oh, yeah, let's party. I don't know what's...
age. Like, I know I said it many a times more than I should have, and it didn't take much convincing.
Right. And, you know, it was at the Palms.
Why not? Why not?
It was at the Palms Casino.
Okay. Gotcha. Even more, guys.
And, you know, part of Blackout was recorded at the Palms. And someone sabotaged that record. Gave it to Perez Hilton. Who did that? State-of-the-art theater in Palms. The Palms was opening a very nice venue in April 2007. And something tells me that Britney might have been expected to open that venue. You know who did is Gwen Stefani.
Yeah.
Venue, you know, so they were trying earlier.
And they just didn't find the right one. And frankly, you know, with Britney being able to, Free Britney yesterday is trying to join someone to invite her on as well. With, you know, having the ability to completely control it means that they could ensure that everything from a tactical aspect could be covered off. And I think we lost Melanie for a minute from a connection perspective. Free Britney yesterday, I'm not sure if you got the message we sent out, the invite we sent out, but while we're waiting on her, and I just lost Melanie. So, view request. All right, guys, we're getting Melanie back on. But in the meantime, for those of you who just joined, thank you for just joining me very much.
As I couldn't scroll with, I can't.
No, it's okay. Don't worry about it. We got some new people on. So just as a reset, Melanie has joined, done a ton of research on Britney being taken advantage of in Vegas and all the different people and organizations that we're a part of. She has been so kind to cover how she got into this research, things that were interesting to her, talking us through the timeline, but she has done a phenomenal YouTube video walking through this all, and she will have an interactable timeline where you can search through coming soon. She is a very diligent researcher, so she is ensuring that everything is properly cited, and I think that that is an extremely important aspect to comment on here, because we all know when we started this movement, people said, well, show us the facts, and it took some time to, you know, show documentable areas, and you're starting out from square one, ensuring everything.
I want to interject in what I'm trying to tell people. I'm like tweeting to Bernie, like, free Britney, we are the 99%, because this is it, right? It's like the total control, monopolized industries, you know, self-serving, nepotism, like people only serving their own people. And it's all that. All the venture capitalists are colluding for this. And they're the reason we don't have a living wage, and we don't really have direct votes in Congress, and everything serves the rich people. I mean, these are all the same people. And that's why I want it to extend beyond Free Britney and like, oh, it's just a pop star. And it's like, no, she's like sacrificed on the altar of, you know, hegemonic capitalism.
And we look at what that could mean for the average person. And I think that's one of the unique things about this movement. And I've loved to see everybody who's come to the rally coming with their own stories. They may not be a Britney fan. They may see this as, this could happen to me, or this has happened to a member of my family, or I'm passionate from a legal end. I'm passionate from a legislative end. I'm passionate.
You know, disabilities, all of that. There's so many facets to it. And it's not even just like this, you know, this is a highly unique outlying situation, but there is an ideology and a rationale for the highest people in the music industry and all the superstars that descend from that, this was okay.
Yeah.
This was worth whatever they got from it, whether that's money from deals or the maintenance of their career, right? We saw what happened to Ashley Judd, Harvey Weinstein, and it's gonna reach that level.
Yeah, and
I don't know why it's taking so long.
I hope it's something.
Courtney Love's a champion.
No, I mean, Courtney Love speaking out when she did was amazing. And if we look at everything in the Weinstein cases and and even in the R. Kelly cases and what happened to Alea, you're talking about an industry that consistently puts down women, that looks at people as profit. I mean, you can go all the way back to frankly Elvis and the situations he was put in, but it's something where or Judy Garland. I mean, there are Marilyn Monroe. I mean, I could keep going, but the demonstrable difference between that and what happened with Britney and
let me pause you there. I mean, there are even like her dad sitting on all this, you know, memorabilia. You got TriStar Sports and memorabilia in the Miracle Mile. In Hollywood Shops, where her Vegas residency is. You have someone's auction house, right, selling a bunch of her stuff in early 2020. Offloading that, it's very easy to, you know, theoretically launder money with memorabilia, right? Because it's not a set value, it's subjective. They're offloading all sorts of stuff.
Yeah, but and you bring up another aspect around laundering money in these type of venues. These type of venues can be a cash cleaning organizations. That's what's attracted the mob to Vegas in the 1950s for building this up, is because you're talking about people that are gambling, therefore untracked money. You're talking about, tickets and sales to events. You're talking about food and beverage service and the contracts that could be manipulated through that. These tales are as old as time in Las Vegas.
You have a lot of Britney adjacent clubs get fined, prostitution, drug rings, Pussycat Dolls Lounge was in the Palms. Someone's come out from that Pussycat Dolls group and said that she was trafficked.
Yeah.
You've got the Nine group, which ran everything, got shut down. You got Privé Nightclub in 2008, gave Kevin Federline a Father of the Year award. Then they got shut down for, gosh, what was it? Planet Hollywood not running them right or keep supervising them. But they were in Planet Hollywood. Mm-hmm. And, these people wheel and deal, owners change, whatever. You do this for me, for me. So what we'll need is just people begging for immunity deals.
Absolutely.
That's why the people, public likes the family story. Well, let's expand the cast of characters, right? Dynasty wasn't only about one family. So what we need is people talking. Who knows if they are on background? Mm-hmm. Whether with journalists haven't really let that be known. They did that Lou Taylor expose, but I was like, there's only one new piece of information in this. So
we had a question come through, so I just want to take a chance to look at it. Free Britney yesterday said, so how do we expose all this? Where will there be will there be an error on the site?
Huh? Gosh, I just think I don't know. I tweeted Breathe Heavy. I tweeted all the big accounts. I don't know what I got to do. I was like, maybe I need to amp up my video game. And that's just it is. Knowledge is power.
Yeah. And I think that anybody who's joined us or is going to watch the
matter, right?
Create your own content. Use the sources that Melanie has been kind enough to put together. Cite her, of course, because we want to respect and thank her for the.
I've had so many Twitter threads. I mean, I get 250,000 views on my tweets every month. I don't have a lot of followers. But, I tweeted some journalist in Venezuela, please cover this. It's what do they call it? Blackballed in the U.S. journalist, media, mass media. And he's like, oh, I know. I've been following you for a while. And I was like, you don't follow me. People know. I don't know what they're waiting for.
I think, a lot of people don't want to be first. So on behalf of everybody who's joined and who's going to watch this, thank you, Melanie, for doing such a detailed analysis of this and being that first person, because it's so often that's the bravest person to take the first step and create a new path. And by your work, not just on this, but also tweeting out those folks, you're making it easier for everyone to follow suit. So thank you for all your work on it.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
Absolutely. So in closing, I just want to see if there are another opportunity for anyone to send in questions, see if there are any thoughts. But just to round us out, so we've talked about early 2000s Vegas, what it was. We've talked about how Britney got into Vegas and everything leading up with all the different actors. Let's talk about domination and what that meant when everything fell through to close us out.
Well, I pushed back on, some people because they wanted domination to happen. I think they held her against her will, tortured her, trying to make her agree to it.
Yep.
Pretty clear MGM Park MGM wanted it to happen. That's where, and, she shout out to Lady Gaga, whose residency is there. And I don't think that's a coincidence that she specifically thanked her, given that they were both going to be performing at the same venue. So prior to that, Lady Gaga and Britney are launching their residencies at the same time. MGM goes over a $650 million renovation. Right? So my feeling is she just wasn't going to do it.
Yeah.
That's my, I know she said that they said no to a dance move. The insurance on all that, I don't know. It all comes out. But what I'll say is, Bridges to Recovery is the facility she was at. you can look at their website. It's a lot of the same people that were working there at the time she was there if you search the Internet Archive. And so this is messed up because I think it's part of the long-term plan. You got a New York Times article, 2000s, all the head honcho heirs to these, these billionaire heirs are like, we're going to redo Vegas, blah, blah, blah. So Bridges to Recovery is owned by Constellation Behavioral Health. And, Constellation Behavioral Health was purchased by New Mainstream Capital. I don't understand venture capital, but it's on their website and they owned it or whatever. They primarily focus on businesses related to healthcare. And it's weird because, you have them buying Marshall Retail Group. Gosh, what year? 2008? And that they own like 50 specialty shops that serve casinos and airports, right? So what is that venture capitalist doing buying Vegas specialty shops when they focus on healthcare? I just feel like everyone conspired against her, like every institution and all these actors, conspired against her. And then you also have, she's sent to promises and she doesn't want to go. Well, they're not even licensed to provide medical care, even though they charge, what, 30 grand a month? And there was they got to act with impunity for 4 years and then were sold and kind of became medical places in 2010 or so, right? So there's a lot of shenanigans.
Yeah.
And anyway, everyone makes an appearance. Weinstein, Epstein, they're all tangentially involved with these people.
Yeah.
Just because they are the power players.
Exactly. And when you
like Rapino being mad in the leaked Sony emails on WikiLeaks that he wasn't invited to the Canadian state dinner with Obama. Anyway.
No, I think that's absolutely crucial because when domination ended, a lot of people lost their cash cow. They lost all the different revenue streams and future revenue streams that were guaranteed. And yes, they put Britney in the facility, I do believe, in order to coerce her and break her into doing it. And she came out and she chose, she continued her fight. So Britney, thank you for continuing that fight.
Like, people are going to figure it out one day how brilliant she is.
Yeah, she is not given enough credit where credit is due.
Like, I can't wait for people. I'm just like, fuck you. Kiss my white ass.
Exactly. But you guys, we're at time and I want to be very kind and thank Melanie again. We so appreciate the opportunity to talk with you guys. Let us know if you want more content in regards to this. Happy to facilitate, and Melanie will, help post
up on everybody. Black box. Robin Greenhill's hard to find things about. I got a little bit of everything, so hopefully we open source it and we can. I mean, my dream is just to expedite this process, and with public pressure, that's how you do it. Because in the public's imagination, I hate to say it, but the story is so much sexier than people even know.
Yeah, and we learned that the first time, so why can't it?
Take the burden off her to tell all this shit. You know what I mean? I'm like, journalists, do your job.
Exactly. So journalists, do your job. Melanie, thank you so much. Everyone who joined, thank you so much. Have a wonderful night. Take care.